the Podski with John Baker. For over 1 year, the revolutionary force in audio entertainment.
Ooh, yeah!
Brother,
Let me talk to you! Freak out, freak out!
I just had an out-of-body experience!
The insane in the membrane!
Brother,
Yeah! And I'm here for only one reason, and that's to take it to the limit, yeah!
somebody stop the damn man!
I'm living on the edge.
Who is your daddy?
Hello and welcome to the Podski. I'm your host, the man of 1,000 gimmicks, Johnny Bake Show. It is episode 61, and it is a big week, not only in the world of professional wrestling, but it is also a little bit of a milestone week here for the Podski. The Podski is 1 year old. We missed it by 2 weeks, so glad I was prepared for that.
Happy birthday.
Yes, happy birthday to the Podski. And we're going to have the three-man booth back together here today. However, this is going to be a two-man band because Andretti was having radio issues in the car and just parked it.
Yep. And listen, man, it happens. I'm a little sad that we don't have him, at the very least sidecarring. And the reason why is that this is going to be a special episode. Really quick, I'm not going to get too deep in the numerology thing, but I do need to say this, John, that 61, the way that we play and the way that those that read stars and, not just text, get down is we reduce numbers down. And so when you say 61, I don't think Roger Maris, okay? And that doesn't mean anything to me. What I see is a 6 and a 1, and I bring those together and I make 7. And I'm telling you, man, 7's a magical number. All right. 7 is it's a number of knowledge. It is a number that appears multiple times in the Bible. Prince made one of his best banger songs is the song 7. There's a reason that there's 7 deadly sins. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those things that sort of repeats itself over and over through time. And so I think that we are going to have ourselves a wonderful little, what is this? Late August. We won't give the date away so that people can think that we're doing this live.
Yeah, this is, we have this is gonna be the Wembley show, kind of, and we're kind of switching up what we were gonna do because we had some things planned with Andretti, but since he's not here, we're gonna switch it up. So, but we're gonna talk about we're definitely doing the All In. We did have some YouTube comments this week to talk about All In, so you're getting it today. And
YouTube comments,
yeah,
woo, woo, woo. Let's go. All right.
yeah, we got some YouTube comments. So they wanted us to cover All In and predictions, so we're gonna do that. And we're gonna, since we're talking about AEW and All In and Wembley, why not talk about SummerSlam '92, the last big show, the last wrestling show that was ever in Wembley. Fits perfectly in here, and it's definitely a way better show than those WCW shows that we just watched over the last couple weeks. This
is facts. And you know what? And here's what's especially apropos about this is that if the audience doesn't know, which they probably wouldn't because they weren't in the living room with us, me, you, and cousin Chig, we watched that All In show, All In 1, together in the Bake Den. You know what I mean? Like, actually, or was that the Chig house?
Chig house.
Ah, okay.
I do
the Chig house, eating some pulled chicken.
We did
watch that first All In show together, and you want to talk magic being made, man? The only thing that I wish that we could have done was to sneak that show into this. But if you feeling freaky, I think that a wonderful thing for next week would be an All In versus All In show.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? I think that is interesting because what we can do is we went into All In 1 look, man, I hate to say it, but that's one of those shows where, like, if it was a C, we were going to give it an A-. Do you know what I mean? Because we were rooting for them that hard.
Right.
And it's almost the opposite, where our expectations are so high that if it's an A-, we might give it a C+. Do you know what I mean? And so it'll be interesting to see how that shakes down. That show was one that was, interesting enough, built off of no build, sort of the way that All In 2 is. The difference is this one has a promotion and the other one didn't. It was just an indie Super Bowl. But I guess that's another topic for another time. But if you're into it, man, you can sign me right up, because I think that'd be a really cool thing to do.
Yeah, I remember that first All In show. Man, that was wild. Like, I just remember seeing that I literally just saw on Twitter before we started recording that the main event of that show was Kota Ibushi and the Young Bucks versus Bandito, Rey Mysterio, and
Ray Phoenix. Was it Ray Phoenix?
He was Ray Phoenix. Because and
yes, yeah. And the crazy thing with that is that was the best 8-minute match anyone would ever see in their life.
Yeah,
because they had 20 minutes worth of stuff. Okada and Mighty Squirrel, I almost said. And Marty Squirrel. Maybe I should say Mighty Squirrel, because he's been like excommunicated from wrestling. So Okada and Mighty Squirrel went like 74 minutes. And it's not like it wasn't a great match, but you can't have a Tokyo Dome main event as your semi-main. And that was what they did. And so I just remember that Young Bucks match, them doing 90 spots in 6 minutes. And so you want to talk about great, like, what could have beens.
Didn't they have like 30 seconds left of air when they cut? Or it was like, so they had so little time before the went out.
Right. Because there was no clout. There was no money. Like, there was no, there was no Tony Khan handshakes with the people to say, like, hey, we got 15 more minutes. We'll take 15 more minutes. And so they had a hard out, and they were bang, 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 and they just made it. And the fact that they had Rey Mysterio on that show,
everyone forgets.
What could have been? Like, what could have been, seriously? Because if that match would have had even 15 minutes, or even like 17, probably, 20 might have been a little too long, because it was a 6-man. But you give a 15 or a 17-minute time cue to the Bucks and Kota Ibushi versus Phoenix, Bandito, and help me out with the last one, Mysterio. My gosh, just said his name. My lord. But that was, I would love to go back and rewatch that one. And the thing is, I don't know if cousin Andretti ever saw it.
I don't think he did.
So if that's something that we can track down, if we can ever fix his audio issues, that'd be great.
Yeah, I can't remember how to watch it anymore. I don't know if it's on the ROH library.
The entire show was posted to YouTube.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if it still is, but it was posted to YouTube, and I don't remember if it was like a make good for something. Something happened, and so the whole show was on YouTube. And while we're talking, I'm going to fire up this old Apple TV ski. And to be honest, if Honor Club's only $10, I would even just sign on to. I'd buy Honor Club for a month and then just cancel it. Sorry, Tony, but have a better product.
But yeah, that it's really crazy to think about too. Is that what if they would have got that time and Mysterio would have had a moment? What if he would have signed with AEW and not gone back to WWE?
My rebuttal to you, and you're right, but my rebuttal to you is that Dom was still in the chamber.
Oh,
that's why he was going to go back when Dom was ready to go.
Yeah.
And so I think that was the thing there.
That is true.
What do we have here?
Are we getting a run in? He might be coming in, not sure. A little Slowski. But yeah, that All In show to think about, and where they're at now with this new All In show for this weekend is wild. But we're definitely going to get into that. We also, while Andretti is fixing his audio issues, we're going to do a quick segment here that me and Mongoose, we've been talking about doing for a long time.
Yep. Long time.
This is going to be 5 minutes of footwear. And I'm going to let you lead us off because we've been in the sneaker game you've been in a sneaker game way longer than I have. But this is a pretty big deal for us here on the Podski. But you're hip to the game. I'm also hip to the game. But you've been in it longer than I have.
All right. So really quick, hit the intro now.
5 minutes of footwear. We got 5 minutes of footwear.
Okay. So 5 minutes of footwear. I'm gonna hit us a hard time cue here, Johnny. So 5 minutes is gonna start now. And ladies and gentlemen, this is your sneaker host, Theodore Teddy Mongoose. I would like to start this off by saying that I have, over the last 2 to 3 months, I've had me a little bit of an epiphany ski.
Ooh.
I go through a lot of cycles in footwear. I do. I've been deep in, I got my first pair of Jordans whenever I was 11 years old, for the Air Jordan 13. And I bought my last pair of Jordans, like 4 days ago. So I've been running the whole time. But here I made a decision, John, and this isn't something that we talked about before. And so the pod world is going to hear it. I am taking back. I'm taking back new shoes. And here's what I mean. My entire young adult life, the only reason that I care about sneakers now was every year I wanted to see what the new Jordan was. And I wanted to know what Penny's new shoe was. And I wanted to know what Scottie Pippen's new shoe was. All right. I've divorced retros.
Whoa! What?
I have divorced retros. What? I've kept my 2 pairs of ones. I am still with Bread ones and I'm still with Shadow ones. I sit here in front of you with a pair of 37 lows.
Wow.
37 highs. And I will be buying 38s when they release later on this week. And what I am doing is I am bringing back the intrigue of, I don't know what this year's shoe is going to be. I can't wait to buy it. Wow. So I'm back to a pair a year. I'm going to buy this year's new Jordan. And if I love it, I'm going to buy the low version. And so the next time that you come to the den and you see my wall is going to look a lot different than before, because it's going to be a whole bunch of tech, and it's going to be a lot less leather.
So okay,
and I'm telling you this, John. The tech in new Jordan models is insane. I wore the 37 hairs work today. I wore the 37 hairs to work today, and that pair of shoes, dude. My feet breathed better than they ever did, and I bounced on the zoomiest zoom that's ever zoomed. Zoom Strobel, double zoom pods, Nike React. They call it like React 23 or something back here.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, brother, it is, and I got these for $90. They're $111 plus 20% off. Nobody wants them except the Mongoose. So that's what I have to say about that. No more bye-bye retros. Hello, new stuff. Tell me something good. What you got?
So I don't really need anything else, honestly. Really what I'm looking for is I'm really interested in a pair of Kobe's. And so that's newer.
Well, those Halo, here's the Protros, because they Protro it. See, I don't want Nike to resell me stuff that they've already sold. Protros, they add new tech to the old Kobe model.
Yes.
Those Halo Kobe 8s are something else, brother.
I don't know if I want the all white pair. I want to see what they do, because they're doing the relaunch whenever this posts on Thursday. So 8/24 is supposed to be the new Mamba Day. They're doing a whole new brand relaunch. I want to see what they're doing. I'd really love to have a pair of Kobe's because I had the I won the Mambacitas on that drop. I had a bootleg pair of those cheetahs, the sevens.
I had shoot sevens. Like that was a great pair. I had shoot cheetah sevens. Those were great shoes.
Yes, I like the reverse Grinches. I'd really like to have a pair of those, but and then the only thing that I'm really kind of the only shoe that I want, and it's my Grail shoe, and that's that's the Concords. Like, and they're not going to bring up Concords for a long time. So, I'm only in the game I'm only sticking it out for a pair of Kobe's and Concords and loosely maybe pair of foam posits. But
foams are great shoes too, man. They are. Yeah. And here's the thing, John. Anybody that likes retros, I ain't bagging on you because retros are great. But here's my thing is after buying retros for 15 years, 17 years, something like that, I finally come to the grips with Nike's just reselling me the same thing over and over again. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I don't need it. And so let me give me your best Nike. And that's dude. And this is really fun because nobody wants the new shoes. Do you know what I mean? Like they don't. And so they're great.
I'll tell you what my best one is I got the pair of the LeBron, the 9, the Big Bangs last year. Those are the most comfortable. Those are one of the most comfortable pairs of shoes.
And think about it this way, because we did hit our time cue.
We did.
That LeBron 9 pair is from 2011, and it's 2023.
Yeah,
tech is so much better.
I know, and it's
so much. Like go to Nike.com today, and type in Air Jordan 37, and pick out the colorway you like in your size, and then apply the 20% promo code, and pay $85 or $90. And you will have the most comfortable pair of shoes you ever had in your life. That's what I'm telling you. Yeah. A little hack for you.
And I'll give a little plug for Li Ning if you want to get into that game, if you want to dip your toe in the waters in new tech. Mongoose knows from
Li Ning's great shoes.
Way of Wade's. I got the JB ones. I got the Jimmy Butler ones. They got drop in midsole. They got it's called their Boom Foam. And it is beautiful. It's a great ride. It feels fantastic. The only thing is, it's got a little squeak in it. That's my only issue. It's got a squeak in it. It's got a little squeak because it's rubbing.
I bought a pair of Nike GT Jump 2s and sent them back because of the squeak. I couldn't deal.
I heard the GT Cut 2s suck. You get the GT.
It was the jump, not the cut. The jump.
The jump.
Dude, most cushioning in the history of shoes. Most comfortable shoe I ever put on. Every time I moved my foot, it squeaked. I couldn't deal with it.
Yeah. I wear my JB ones to work out in, so like I never hear it squeak. But
gotcha.
But yeah, I did also in new tech too. I did get a pair of the Dame 8s because if Dame,
yep.
I mean, I needed a new pair to work out in for basketball and stuff like that because I do that on my cardio days, and those things are super comfortable, hella nice. But we exploded.
We call that 5 minutes and 55 seconds of footwear. Welcome aboard, Captain Andretti. Can you hear me? And if you can, let's play it. And if not, we'll cut this out.
I'm going to smash that fucking laptop. This is what's going to happen.
That's all right.
That's the worst fucking laptop I've ever had in my life.
Well, if you want to bury a Surface, we can do that before we.
Dude, that Microsoft Surface is the worst computer I've ever seen. Like literally. Here's the issues I've had with that thing since day one. The graphics card keeps getting worse. I have to keep restarting it. The touch sensitivity won't update. Every program I open freezes constantly. It's just a piece of shit.
Yeah, stuff at my shoot job are all tied with Microsoft, and thank God that I don't have like a Surface or anything like that. But like the tech and the apps on it drive me nuts. But
I'm literally using an old MacBook right now. I mean that Surface, I don't even know. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah, you sound good, dude. You're good to go.
There's no intuition with that Surface. Like it's like it's been designed by somebody who has never used a laptop and tried to just make a laptop off the top of their head. Dude, it's brutal. Everything about even the charging plug to charge that thing is a piece of shit. Why did they design it like that? You can't even move the surface left to right without the charging cord falling out of the side.
Wow. Jeez.
There's one USB port. It's just bullshit, dude.
Oh yeah, dude, that sucks. And you only got one USB.
It's unbelievable. I can't deal with it. So I just texted my brother-in-law, and he told me that you can actually send that stuff in anytime to get it fixed with Microsoft. So we're going to look into that to do that. But dude, I think that thing needs completely wiped, and everything that's going to have to get reinstalled. I mean, either that, or I'm going to go buy a 15-inch MacBook that is intuitive, that I can actually use, because every single thing I do all day long, I'm fighting that computer all day. I fight it all day long, dude.
Well, here's the thing. This is not to cheap plug you, enemy, Tim Cook. But listen, man, I got a 2016 MacBook Air that not only do me and Mrs. Mongoose use for recreational use, as well as, if we have to pull home any like homework stuff, like home space work stuff, we can. But baby Mongoose, dude, that thing it's had milk and cereal and stuff spilled all over it, and there's 4,000 like bubble stickers and all kinds of things that it never actually closes. And dude, that thing still runs like a dream, and it is a 2016 MacBook Air. The only reason I bought the MacBook Air was for better compatibility. Before that, I had a 2008 from whenever I started my actual shoot post-college job. I bought myself an original MacBook, like one of those big, thick white ones.
Yeah.
That thing was for 8 years, it was a battle tank. I had to shut it down in 2018 only because it was taking up space. The battery was so fried that it started to rot. And so I could only use it directly plugged into the system.
Yeah.
Directly plugged into the charger. But I could be on that computer now if I wanted to. It's just that the OSs were so outdated that it didn't matter. I'm telling you, dude, Andretti, get a MacBook. Get one.
Dude, seriously. How is it possible that Microsoft Suite doesn't work on the Surface?
Because Microsoft.
How is that possible?
Here's the thing: is if you got yourself any type of MacBook from Air up through a Pro, Microsoft Suite will work like a dream. It'll work like a dream, and that's why you should just do it.
Right now. I'm on a MacBook right now, and I've never really had an issue with this thing, other than the fact that it's been old. It's a little older. It's probably even older than 2016. Maybe it is 2016. But I'm at the point, dude, where it's like, I'm about to just take money out of savings and just go buy that new one, that 15-inch one that just came out. I think it's like $10. I can't live like this anymore, dude. Like it's costing me so much time every day with that Microsoft service. It's fucking killing me.
Yeah, and you're guaranteeing yourself 5 to 8 years of a reliable computer. You're guaranteeing it. It's a guarantee.
Yeah, that is true. I don't have a MacBook, but I did a little update. I added some RAM to this laptop that the wife got me last year for my birthday, and this thing is a battle tank now. Like, this thing goes, and it's so nice. But yeah, well, welcome back into the show, Andretti.
Dude, I had to go take a break. I went outside and played with the dogs with the balls, and then I went and had a cocktail, and now I'm flying.
As you should have. And all me and John did was we reshuffled the show itinerary. We added 5 minutes of footwear, which ended up being like 5 minutes and 55 seconds of footwear. But now we're ready to rock, man. So I'm here to party. Let's do this.
All right. So I know that you guys have been watching the G1. So give us your G1 update. Hit it, Mongoose.
Go ahead.
I got two things that I need to say about the G1, okay? First, I did not make it through the whole thing, even though the last time that I was on this audio platform, if you are somebody that listens to every show, which if you are, bless your soul, and please come back for more. But I did not follow through with every episode of G1 because it's impossible. It's just not. It's not possible to have a life and watch every G1 match. I tried. I couldn't do it. Here's what I need to say is that the shows that I saw, which I saw the first 7-ish, were wonderful. Everything was easy to watch. I did not ever feel like I was wasting my time. The second thing that I have to say is that even though people have been dragging the G1 as being one of the quote unquote worst ones, and more so only because we had a lot of like new names there, and then they changed the format this year, and then the time limits went from 30 minutes to 20 minutes. And what I didn't like about the format was in past years, if they posted a G1 show, I could skip the first half of it because it was all 6-man tags and 8-man tags, and then I could just watch the couple of block matches, and I was caught up. The fact that it's just 3 hours of block matches, it's laborious. It's not easy to do, and that's the one thing that I don't like about it. That being said, I got to say this, man. I watched a lot of really good matches, and I saw a lot of really good things. And the two best things that I've seen in wrestling this year that were not Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay were Evil and Okada and Ospreay and Naito in the semis. Dude, I'm discrediting Danielson and MJF a lot here, and I don't mean to do that, but that was my favorite Evil match that I ever saw. Evil and Okada. It was great. And the fact that we had two people grab each of Okada's feet and hold him up in the sky, and Dick Togo goes up on to the ropes and he delivers a tomahawk karate chop to the balls of Kazuchika Okada. That's the best thing that I've seen in wrestling. I can't even tell you since I died. I almost fell off the treadmill when that happened, man. And I even called Andretti and talked to him, and I was like, I hate to spoil this for you, but you're about to see the greatest spot in the history of pro wrestling. Whenever they held Okada on his head, the top of his head was on the mat, and they each wishboned his legs, and Dick Togo karate chopped his freaking dick, and it was incredible. And the Naito Will Ospreay match is out of this world. Naito gets legit knocked out, and Will Ospreay gives himself 2 Destinos. Like Naito is batty, can't see, can't move. You can hear in the audio that Ospreay says, "Let's go home, let's wrap this up," something to that end, or "Let's go to the finish," or whatever. And Will Ospreay is so athletic that he gives a move that he's supposed to help out with, but Naito controls. He double backflips himself twice to give himself 2 Destinos, and it finishes one of the best matches this year. It would be the match of the year if Ospreay didn't wrestle Omega, and it's one of the best G1 matches I ever saw. So everybody do yourself a favor and watch both of the semifinals. The finals is great too. Don't get me wrong. I'm happy Naito won, but those semifinals, that last hour of that show is appointment viewing, man. Go watch it. Go ahead there, Andretti.
The biggest issue that I have is that, I mean, I guess there's a couple here just from what you were saying, but I know people were saying that this is one of the worst G1s of the last couple of years, or the worst one of the last decade. I heard people saying worst one of the last decade, but I mean, look, is it really the worst one, or did they just burn everybody out? Is what I think, because they went from 28 to 32 with the competitor. Look, I like that because I want to see more people get involved, and I love it when they have Eddie Kingston and Kiyomiya and stuff like that, who's a guy that we weren't familiar with, right? So it was really nice to see that guy. But you go from 87 matches to 119. Okay, now that might not seem like a lot. That's 30 more. That's 32 matches, dude.
That's a lot.
32.
Andretti, it's impossible. It's not a lot. It's impossible. It's impossible to have a life of any kind.
Dude,
and watch it all.
It's impossible. That's something that I watch every year. I look forward to the G1 every single year. And when it came around, and I started watching it, dude. It was like I was underwater with it. Like you get behind so quick that you feel like you can't catch up. And if you're not watching those shows either the night of or the day after, whenever they get posted, you fall behind so quick, dude, that it just piles up. And God forbid you go out of town for 2 days, right? And now you're freaking 28 matches behind, and like who has time to catch up with that? And the issue that I had too was like you got so many matches that by the time people sit down after dinner at night, after work, whatever, to start watching a couple of those matches at night, dude, you're getting 15 minutes into it and you're falling asleep on the couch. And to your point, in the past, you could fast forward through a lot of those tag matches if you didn't want to watch them and just catch it, one or two or a couple matches at the end of the card and be like, wow, that was really great. Now, I will say that I did not see a bad match of anything that I watched. I did not. There was nothing I watched.
I agree with you. I agree with you. That's true.
Nothing I saw I thought was bad. Now there was, a lot of stuff was better than other stuff, but I didn't think there was anything that I saw that was just like I wish I wouldn't have watched it. You know what I mean? But it's not the quality with them now. It's just volume. There's just so much volume that who the hell has time, dude, to watch 119 matches? Now look, you guys know that I go out of my way to watch that stuff as much as I can every year. I try to keep up with it, but dude, it just got to the point this year where I get about 40% of the way through it where I was caught up with everything, and then I was just like, holy shit, man. How the hell am I supposed to catch up on 5 days?
Yeah.
And then I ended up watching. I watched the 2 semis and I watched the main. The last couple of nights. It is fantastic. All 3 of those matches were 3 of the best matches I've seen the whole year. And
that's just it. Is that those last 3 matches? No matter what anybody says, holy exclamation point, Batman! Like those last 3 matches are so good. I can't stop touting how good that Evil match was, because I only watched it because it was the semi and I saw Evil was in it and I was like, ugh. And the thing is, they even did an Evil match and it was still great. Like they got the crowd believing that Evil was actually going to do it. And it was awesome. It was absolutely awesome. And then I wasn't even ready for how good Naito Ospreay was going to be.
Even that main event was probably the hottest New Japan crowd that I had heard in a long time. That crowd was so on fire for that main event, dude. Those guys were just they're 2 of the best performers in the world, man. Okada's probably a top 15 guy ever, So you've got people in there that are just warriors, man. And when New Japan is on top of their game and they're doing things, to the best of their abilities, there's no promotion in the world that can touch them. But they killed everybody, dude. I think they just killed that crowd. They killed their fan base with too many matches in this G1. And I think people just got pissed off about it and people got burned out. And I understand. I totally understand.
Yeah. That's one thing that I say every year. I want to do it. I want to do it every year. And this year,
Baker, this year you would have gotten about 2 or 3 nights into it and been like, what the hell is happening? Why are there so many matches?
There's no way I would have been able to hang around.
Dude, you're talking about every night's cards had a shitload of matches, singles matches that you had to watch. And it was like, it just got to the point where it was too much. But look, man, nobody did a bad job. Nobody. No, there was no effort. No efforts in that whole tournament were bad. I thought everybody did a hell of a job. And, a couple of the guys that really stood out for me, Naito looked great from day one. He did an unbelievable job all the way through it. Right guy won, with him. No doubt. Beating Okada is the right thing in the finals. I loved every second of that. But, the people who really stood out to me that I really liked, it's the first time I was exposed to Kiyomiya. I think that guy's really good. He's a really talented guy. I liked him a lot. Yota Tsuji's fantastic. Finley is fantastic. That Finley and Evil match was pretty early on in the tournament, and I was like, oh God, I got to sit through this, because I typically didn't like either one of those guys for a long time, but fantastic. I got to eat my words on Evil, because when that guy wants to be good, he's really good, and I got to give him a lot of credit for that. I don't know what you do with him. I think they got to rebrand that guy, man, and just get him away from this stupid gimmick, away from this stupid faction, change his stupid name. call him by his own name, make him a baby face. That fucking guy can work, dude. And he proved it to me in the G1 that he knows what the hell he's doing. So I would really welcome seeing that guy get a rebrand and get away from this stupid evil thing that he's doing right now. But in addition to that, man, the guy that I've really woken up to this whole year since even the end of last year is Tai Chi. Tai Chi to me is just he's just so on point right now, dude. With all his matches, everything he does is great. It's just fantastic to watch him. I mean, that guy has really stepped up. Ospreay is the number one guy in the world for me, and every match he's in is a classic.
Well, here's the thing: is that when we did our mid-year award show, I said that you can say that Kenny's not the best in the world, and you're wrong. And after seeing Ospreay Naito, where Ospreay Destinos himself twice, I was wrong. It's Ospreay and it's not Kenny, and that's not a slight to either one, man. I should say it's not a slight to Kenny. It's just, dude, Ospreay's at the peak of his powers. Will Ospreay and Chris Jericho are going to have a 5-star match this weekend. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And it might be 5+. It might be if Jericho doesn't drink any wine or Jack Daniels this week, it's going to be 5+. Like that's the fact.
Ospreay is going to will that match into 5-star territory. Is what's going to happen.
It's not even territory, man. I think that the over/under is literally 5, because I think that you push it 5, and I would not be surprised if it's 5.25 or something like that, because Jericho's so good at psychology. For everything that Ospreay can do, both psychology-wise and physically in the ring, Jericho's just the master of psychology. And I'm telling you, man, I'm actually going to be disappointed if it's not top level. And that goes to the build thing. So go ahead, John.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you brought that up, because our next thing we're going to talk about is this All In show. And
I mean, are we done with G1? Do you got anything else you want to say about it?
The only thing that I want to say about G1 is that watch the semis and the finals. Seriously, watch the semis. If you are a wrestling fan and you have access to the semis and the finals, you're doing yourself a disservice not watching them. This isn't one of those G1s where you see match after match of, oh my God, go see, oh my God, go see. And there's so many of them that we can say that we can pick favorites, and we can say that I like this and I like that. It's unfair because neither of us saw them all. And if anybody did, bless your soul. But the semis and the finals were so good. They were so good. So go watch them. I saw probably a good 65% of the matches, I bet. And I'm being 100% honest when I say this. There was nothing that I watched that I wouldn't tell people to watch. Everything was really good. All the matches were really good. All the participants were great. It really feels like they're going to put the belt on, Naito over Sonata at Wrestle Kingdom, which is the right call, I think. Because I think ultimately they're building towards Tsuji in Naito, is where we're headed for a year from now. But Sonata did a great job. He's been an awesome champion, whether you want to call him a transitional guy or whatever you want to call him. I think that guy's really stepped up. The thing too, like I saw people saying that they thought that Gabe Kidd kind of overshadowed Finlay a little bit in this tournament. And I don't agree or really disagree with that. But even if that's the case, where Finlay's supposed to be the head of the faction and Gabe Kidd, kind of maybe outshined a little bit. I mean, isn't that where we could go down the road anyway? Because that's what the Bullet Club has always been. It's always been there. Right. So why is it a bad thing? No, I think that the thing with that is that to me that was on purpose. There's a reason why every Gabe Kidd match had him attack people for 12 minutes and then get into the ring and then everything. Like, so I agree with you. I don't think that that's a criticism. I think that that's actually pretty good storytelling for the future. The one thing that I think that if they could turn back time on this would be if Gedo can turn back time. If Yota Tsuji beats Sonata and then immediately LIJ is like, what are you doing? Yoda Tsuji and Naito at the Tokyo Dome would have been huge.
Well, I think we're going there. We're going there.
Well,
We're just not
but I mean, like to that crowd that night. I never heard of Yoda Tsuji, and oh my god, if he'd won that night, so they would have been able to check boxes to be like, we have the most over guy. And so I wonder if they second guess themselves there on that, but. That'd be the one thing is that watching that Yoda Tsuji and Sonata match from Dominion, I was literally in Yoda Tsuji's corner, like, this guy's awesome. And I was thinking they might pull the trigger. And now I wish they did, because having them in LIJ, I think having them in LIJ with Yoda Tsuji having the belt and Naito having the briefcase is a better version of Finn Balor and Damian Priest. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's the same story, but it's a better version. So I don't know.
I like Sonata holding the belt till Wrestle Kingdom. Hopefully they'll feed him another maybe two guys. Get him like 2 more wins maybe between now and then. But put the belt on Naito at Wrestle Kingdom. And then over the course of the next year, 2024, let's build towards Tsuji and Naito. Maybe that'll be the Wrestle Kingdom at the end of 2024 is my guess.
Dominion show too.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was the G1 little wrap up. I don't know if that might be a Tooth and Nail exclusive later on, or an Andretti After Dark. Maybe.
I'm vetoing that.
We're too far down the road. We're too far down.
Yeah.
That's all right. But
look, I said everything I had to say, and so did Mongoose within 10 minutes. I mean, I'm good with it.
Yeah. But yeah, we got the big show this weekend. We got All In at Wembley, and I got some questions that I want to ask you guys, because it is getting some heat, because what Mongoose and I had talked about beforehand was that everything was kind of shot very quickly. And by shot quickly, like in the last week, they added like a ton of matches. So there hasn't been like a true build. And that's kind of like the way that the first All In was done. No angles, just matches. And to me, that's frustrating. And as a fan of AEW, what I loved in the beginning is that they build all of this out, and they really took their time, and things were done way in advance. So like, you knew matches months in advance that was going to happen at a big show. And now they've converted into we're going to shoot all of these angles with like 1 to 2 weeks left, or as what Tony Khan even said today on the media call, was that we're adding matches to the show tomorrow night, and we're taking away stuff.
Not adding that. We're changing the card.
Changing the card.
He said we're changing the card.
I didn't hear that.
I don't.
Yeah. So the 30-second rundown on that really quick, Andretti, is that on that media call today, he said that the card for Sunday is going to change, and some of it was thought out in advance, and some of it were curveballs that just got thrown in front of us. And to me, some of it in advance part, when the show's 5 days away, was, what are we doing?
Yeah, well,
go ahead though, John.
One thing I do know with that is that Ray Phoenix can't get into the UK for visa issues, so he's always
shit.
So
yeah, who cares?
Yeah, that's all I know so far. So I'm sure that things are going to change, but
they don't got to be on every show.
For me, I'm frustrated because I wish that the card would have been laid out and we would have had angles and stories beforehand, because I feel like this is too big of an opportunity to waste. You just have the largest crowd in wrestling history in years, and not even on American soil. You already outdid what we're going to talk about in the main event with SummerSlam 92. You already outdid them. And like, it just feels like it's held together with like rubber cement, basically, is what it seems like they're holding this thing together with.
Well, so here's the big problem is that this show was announced and they sold those tickets, and that was in May or June 1. I think it was in May, actually, whenever they went on sale. Okay. But right away they had 36,000 people, and it was surpassing everything. And we had a show way back when, and we talked about how exciting it was that they were adding a Saturday show to now be able to tell double the stories for a 2.5 month build that is essentially 5 months of stories in 2.5 months to get to this mega show. And what's frustrating about it is that New Japan builds their shows the way that they do, but New Japan also is presented as sport, and AEW is not. Contrary to what we were told when they were formed,
yes.
They are not sport. They are sports entertainment, and that's okay. But if you're sports entertainment, then I should know your pay-per-view matches like after a pay-per-view almost. Do you know what I mean? And so we got through Forbidden Door, and the frustrating thing was on Dynamite last week, there were 8 attacks, I think, that set up matches. And look, dude, those 8 attacks, if the first one took place the Dynamite after Forbidden Door, and they were placed every other week, or do you know, like how was that
spread out?
I have no problem with attacks, man, as long as you spread them out. And when they're all in the same show, if anybody watched one segment of Dynamite, I think you would have thought it was good. But if anybody watched all of Dynamite last week, you would have thought, oh my gosh, that was a lot.
Yeah.
You know, like just that was a lot. I'm not saying good. I'm not saying bad. I'm saying a lot. And that's what's frustrating is that it's pro wrestling, which means that you literally get to pick who wins and loses, and when people attack people, and when people are suspended and when they're not suspended, and all this other stuff. And you have Ricky Starks is suspended for 30 days, and oh wait, we changed it. It's actually 4 weeks. Like
we're changing it mid-story.
And it's everything. It's everything that everybody didn't like about WWE when they quit watching WWE in that sense. Like when they came on, when AEW came onto the scene, their viewership was the lapsed fan of WWE. And they're falling into tropes and crutches and things that happen. Like, to me, this is a guy that's too stretched, which is Tony. That's what I think anyways, is that all of a sudden there's his spoons in too many pots. And I know that there's an actual creative team and stuff, but that creative team was in place at the end of spring. And so with Danielson and with Chris Daniels and QT Marshall and with Jerry Lynn and with all these guys that are supposed to be in the room with him, like working through stuff, I don't think that they would have said it's a good idea to do 8 different attack angles on one TV 2 weeks before a show. And that's really frustrating, man. This all in show is going to be awesome. And All Out is going to be awesome. And full disclosure, I'm buying them both. So I guess I'm one of those marks that's like the loser that does it or whatever. We're going to watch them both, and we're going to think that they're great shows. But that doesn't mean that the process to get there is the right one. And if the process to get there is not the right one, over the long term, you're going to be like, top shelf TNA. And I don't want them to be top shelf TNA. No. I want them to be 1997 WCW, meaning that it's true competition. Like I would like a 1 and a 1A. I don't want a 1 and a 2. Yes. And that's what's frustrating about this is that they're slotting themselves as being a 2. Well, to me, anyways.
Almost the like way that I've been looking at it All In has been the same way that the WWE has treated those Saudi shows, where the tickets are already sold. You're already going to get all the money. There's no sense in blowing big storylines or big matches on a show that sold 90,000 tickets without a card being announced. You see what I'm saying? They didn't have to give those people the same thing that they would have had to have given a crowd somewhere else. It's the same exact principle of WWE with Crown Jewel or whatever the hell else they run in Saudi Arabia. Those cards are already full. They're getting their money. There's no reason to put big matches on those early Crown Jewel shows. You see, that's the way that I think that they just got to a point where they said, let's not give a crowd that's already sold and already coming these extra surprises. We don't have to do that.
I think my counter argument
really quick though. I was going to say counterpoint for me, and if it's the same, I'm sorry for thundering over you, John, that there's still a pay-per-view the week after. And so all those angles that you wanted to build for your sold show that you skipped over could have been for the show the week after. Like, it's not like they couldn't spend a summer building programs, and I don't feel like they did it. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, my thing is that this is their biggest opportunity that they've had since the inception of AEW to gain an audience that wants to see a spectacle, that wants to see the entertainment. They want to see if somebody else can do a WrestleMania style show. And this does not feel like a WrestleMania card. Or I might be on the outside on that, but I don't think, for one, even though it is kind of storyline, I think it's moronic to have your tag team of MJF and Adam Cole, even though they're fantastic together. I love them. But I think that you're playing with fire, having them go out there and do a tag team match on a pre-show, knowing the fact that if shit goes wrong and somebody gets hurt, which seems to happen frequently in AEW, is that now you just fucked your main event in front of 81,000 people. So then you got super creative on the fly.
John, you're right there. And because the sold show thing, to back up Andretti, goes back to what we've talked about before. Because it's a sold show, your main event should have been MJF and Adam Cole winning the World Tag Team Championships.
Yeah.
Or losing them to FTR. So either if they weren't going to crown them on the highest viewed collision since the first show, which was only because of that tag team.
Yeah.
If they weren't going to win them, then they should have won them at this show. And then they could have broke up. Dude, if they wanted to fast track it, they could have broke them up on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And people would have bought the show the next Saturday or Sunday, whenever the show is. It literally could have been that easy. And that's what frustrated me about that, was that you have the best angle in your company, the best storyline in your company, they didn't run with. And look, the Bucks and FTR is going to be the best match on that show. That's a fact. You guys might think I'm wrong, but I'm telling you this, that you could write it down in pen. That's the best match on that show. Great match. But the money match would have been MJF and Adam Cole versus FTR. They win the titles, and then if you wanted them at all out, then do your split on Wednesday, and people would have bought the freaking tickets, man. That's what frustrates me about that, is that pre-show thing is playing with fire, just like you said. And I don't understand why you don't run with your hottest thing, especially whenever they already had ready-made, everybody wants to cheer MJF, and now we're going to turn him heel because that's what we had in the cards. Like, it frustrates me that they didn't Sami Zayn this. Do you know what I mean? Sami Zayn went from being a 3-week thing to main eventing at Montreal against Roman Reigns. Like, we could have told this story better. It's frustrating. It's frustrating. It's because the fans loved it, man.
There's no incentive And that's the whole problem with that whole promotion is incentive. There's no incentive for them to make money. There's no incentive for them to tell storylines that make logical sense and to keep people along for the ride and to give fans a validation and a payoff, even if it's just psychological, for being invested in your product. They don't do that. It's not very good.
Well, here's the thing then, is they used to. Like they actually did. And that's what's most frustrating is that we watched MJ before AEW was a thing. We watched MJF buddy up to Cody on Being the Elite and thought this guy's a snake.
Yeah.
And then we get through and we go to that Full Gear show where MJF throws in the towel on Cody, and now it's Cody and MJF. So there was an 8-month storyline where we knew from the second we saw MJF on the first Being the Elite show to when they actually had TV that Cody and MJF was going to be a thing. And so the people that knew, and that's what. So I think that I'm echoing your point is that like part of the great thing about being a wrestling fan is when you fantasy book and you get something right, you feel smart, even though like who cares? But like you feel smart, and so we can high five each other on a podcast, or you can say, or people can say like, oh, so and so is wrong, but I knew it. Like that's what's really cool about being a sport that is a work, is that trying to guess it, and when you guess it right, it's a good thing. And when more people guess it right than wrong, it's a better thing. Look at New Japan for that, dude. The first Naito losing to Jeff Cobb in the best Naito match that I've seen in over a year, I thought, oh my gosh, Naito looks so good. Well, then guess what Naito did? Kept winning and winning and winning. And then all Naito did was win the damn tournament. Like, that's the way you do this, man. You get to make up the results. That's what's frustrating.
It's frustrating. You hit the nail on the head, is that you get to make up the outcome. So if you've got an outcome, like we were saying earlier, and look, we all fantasy book, and that's just what it is because we're fans of it, and every fan's get a fantasy book. But if we're working towards Yota Tsuji and Tetsuya Naito at Wrestle Kingdom at the beginning of 2025, if we're working towards that match to crown Yota Tsuji, then we know that that's where we're going, right? The end destination is that match. So what do we need to do between now and then? What are the signposts along the way between now and then? We've got, a year and a half to plan this out, right? To get to where we want to be and tell this great story about two faction members who are colliding because they both think they should be the head of the faction and they should be the world champ, right? That's the story. That's all we need to have, right? How do we get there? And you just build it from the end backwards to where you want to be, just like it would be if we were putting together a fucking game plan to go play on Friday night. It's the same damn thing, right? So what's really frustrating for me about this stuff today, I didn't even hear this about Tony Khan today. I didn't even hear that. But what's really frustrating for me as a fan is, dude, you've had these tickets sold for months. You've known All Out is coming for months. You've got back-to-back monumental shows that are right on top of you, but you've had months to plan this, and where is it? Where is the planning? It's like you said. Why was there not a big confrontation where MJF and Adam Cole beat the Young Bucks or whoever they end up beating? They get a #1 title shot. They go in there. They almost beat FTR. They turn on each other, whatever the hell it ends up being, right? And it falls apart. And now these guys have actually hated each other the entire time, which is it gets revealed. And then they're the main event at All Out, right? Why is this so? I hear smart people say this all the time. I hear people like Lance Storm say this all the time. I think I've even heard Les Thatcher say this before. We make this too complicated. And it's the same damn thing that we've done with football games and baseball strategy and all the things we've ever done. You saw the Dodgers, in their own heads when they lost that World Series because they couldn't get the metrics out of their own head. They got in their own way. How many football coaches have the three of us known that can't get out of their own way? Dave wants that. Guy would never change his game plan. He would go into a game and say, our game plan is going to be to run the ball. And they go in there and they run the ball and they get their ass kicked. And it's halftime and the other coaches are like, are we going to make any changes? He's like, no, we're going to stick to our game plan. Dude, what are you talking about? You can't do that. You can't do that. You've got to be able to adjust. You've got to be able to forecast and adjust. And it just seems like Tony Khan's not able to do that.
Well, it doesn't plan.
I'm sorry, really quick. I just want one more time, John, before I'm going to let you go. I'm not letting go. I watch all these shows, and so do you guys. Those reactions for Cole and MJF as a tag team, just ride the wave. It ain't that hard, dude. It ain't that hard. Just ride the wave. And when it hits its crescendo and it starts to, then break them up. Go ahead. That's all I had to say. That's what makes me mad, is that stop fighting your fan base. There's no reason to.
Yeah, it's really frustrating because everything that you said, Andretti, about that's a really simple thing that they could have laid out. It's very simple storytelling where they're a team. WWE is the masters of putting people together to break them up. And AEW just is like, they can't. It's so fucking frustrating because it's such an easy story. They could have broken them up. They've teased it too many times. That's almost the thing with me and AEW right now, is they tease too many things for too long. They dick tease you too long until you've already you don't even got hard on anymore. You're just right.
The problem, John, is that there's some of that. Like, we still have not seen Swerve versus Keith Lee. We still haven't seen it. But then we have, in one of the best angles they ever did, and I mean this, from the start of the company, was Swerve and AR Fox going to Buddy Wayne's training facility and killing Nick Wayne. That was great. That was great television. So what do? Oh, we announced Sting and Darby Allin versus AR Fox and Swerve in a coffin match, which you think, oh, dude, how great would it be if Buddy RIP Buddy in a coffin match? Jesus. If Nick Wayne comes out of the coffin, yeah, and murks these guys, right? Dude, Nick Wayne's back last week, and now we have Nick Wayne and Darby versus AR Fox and Swerve on Dynamite this week.
Giving away
what?
Dude,
what? What? It's what? Why? Why?
I'll tell you exactly why. Because it's booked by a person who has flashes of creative brilliance, and that it burns out of his mind really quick, and he can't control himself, and he can't control his impulses, and he moves on to the next thing without any payoff.
Yeah,
that guy can't be the day-to-day booker. Now, maybe he's the long-term guy who says, I want to see this and I want to see that, just like a CEO, but he should not be the guy who lets anything out.
Well, you know what, Andretti? Here's the thing, is that listening to Cornette and Pritchard as long as I did, which both guys certified workers, so God only knows what they say, what's true and what's not. But the thing is if you cross them both over, that the deal was that the WWF and WWE's rise was, here's Vince's idea. We're going to meet at the pool in Florida. And so I want Hogan and Savage. Get me there.
Yeah.
I want Bret and Shawn. Get me there. I want Stone Cold and The Rock. Get me there. And those meetings at the pool was you had Pritchard and Cornette and those guys and Patterson. Yeah. Like those guys there to get you there.
Look, I was about to say there's no Pat Patterson, there's no Bruce Pritchard. That's bullshit. There are people there who know exactly what to do and how to get there. We're just not listening to these people. And that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I was saying to Bake before we got on here, that John, I know John and Dave had a podcast falling out where John gave up on him. But I told him, the thing is though, is that I know that he was getting frustrated because of, just spinning in circles about all this stuff after Brawl Out. But what I've heard from Dave, especially these last 3 months, has been the best thing that I could have wanted to hear, which was, Tony, do your job, bro. Like, people in the locker room aren't happy, and it's your fault. Like, he says in his just 7,000 words to say 5 way of saying, buddy, this should have been handled in May of 2022.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't
and
that's the truth, is that it's right. It should have been handled in May of 2022. Like,
you listen to I don't listen to the Observer very much. I listen to Dave, I listen to Brian maybe like once every 3 weeks. But did you listen to Victor Souza, I think his name is, and Les Thatcher from the
dude, last week they let Tony have it. And here's the thing is, they said when he did good, and I love when you say what someone does good right before you get the shovels out. And they should have, man. Like, look, brother, you wrestling fans are rooting for your company. And the only reason that they're not still with you is your fault, because you have abandoned what was your initial game plan. And in the meantime, the WWE has found themselves good long-term storylines that people can get behind. Those WWE shows, by and large, aren't very good. But you know what is good? The Bloodline, the Judgment Day, and then a couple of things along the way.
Cody.
The Gunther, Sheamus, Edge. So they have just enough to supplement it that people keep coming back. And so you've now run off as AEW, the lapsed fan who says, oh, I heard WWE's getting better. And if I'm a WWE person, or used to be, and I tuned in the Backlash, and I watched that Backlash show, well, brother, I'm locked in. If I was the lapsed WWE fan and I watched that Quebec show, the Montreal show with Sami Zayn, I'm back in. They've been their own worst enemy, because they've told their worst stories while WWE's told their best, and that's the way this goes too. It's an ebb and flow thing.
An unbelievable amount of talent in AEW that covers up all those foolishness, and that's why it's so frustrating for us as fans, because, as you said, we're going to watch All In and we're going to watch All Out, and when you just view those in a vacuum, right? You're gonna if, like, I'm talking 10 years from now, right? 10 years from now, whenever we log into whatever platform AEW has, and we go back and we watch this All In show, we're gonna be like, holy cow, that was unbelievable, dude. All Out was unbelievable. But that's the thing about them, is that when it's almost like they're really good at building these like vacuum shows where when you go back or you watch it just in the moment, it's so fantastic. But when you try to invest over the course of time in the build up to those shows, it's so insane. It's illogical.
Yes.
And it is frustrating beyond belief. But in the same token, like, we're gonna watch both of those shows, and we're going to be like, this is fantastic. And these guys are unbelievable talents. They're the best in the world at what they do, this and that. And then we're going to turn it back on Dynamite the following Wednesday, and we're going to be like, why am I watching this? Why am I watching Dynamite? Like, I could never watch Dynamite or Rampage again and probably be a lot happier in my life just watching the pay-per-views.
Yeah. That's really quick, John. That's 2018 WWE.
Yeah.
Like that's what it was. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point. My thing is that they've had a lot of goodwill with the fans. that they rode that wave for 2 years. And then I don't know what happened in 2021, end of 2021, beginning of 2022. I don't know what happened. I don't know if that is related to Mr. Phil getting involved. I don't know what that is, but ever since that point, and listen, I'm the biggest CM Punk mark that we got here on this show right now, but ever since then, things have gone downhill to the point where I don't care to even watch Dynamite anymore. I only want to watch Collision, and you're never going to catch me watching Rampage ever again because they've shown these times.
John, dude, Collision sucks. Like if Collision is going to be what Collision is, I got news for you. I watched the last 2 episodes. I don't care about a good main event if I'm watching 6 squash matches on every show.
Well, I don't mind it. I actually think Collision's better than Dynamite.
Well, dude, you say that now, but when you continue to see Action Andretti getting killed by Miro, you're not going to keep watching.
No,
You won't. And like those 30-minute main events is what is keeping people on. And that first segment with Punk as the Golden Vampire, that was awesome. That was awesome. I give him that. But you can't tell me that you're going to keep wanting to see Miro just give the game over to, Griff Garrison.
do something with
You're not.
Yeah.
What's that?
Do something with him other than just squash people. We already know he can squash people. He squash
Miro's working with Hobbs. We're going to get a good match.
He is working with Hobbs, but the problem with that, John, was that he had programs pitched to him where he was going to need to take a loss, and he said, "Homie, don't play that."
I should.
Well, you say, why should he? Dude, because you're getting paid money to lose.
I know.
Look, man,
that's the thing is you ain't it. Like, you are only Superman because we wrote on paper Miro goes over. Like, if we have a shoot fight competition, Bart Gunn wins.
Look, you want to go back to 2021 and see where it was? I'll give you a quick rundown of what it was. It's Phil Brooks, it's Collision, it's Rampage, it's buying ROH, it's all of those things. It's a bloated roster where you keep letting people tell you to bring their friends in and pay them to be on top. When you can't, not everybody can play for the Celtics. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to every high school basketball player out there. You're not going to play for the Boston Celtics. Only 2 of you are ever going to do that, But like, that's the thing, man. There's not one issue. It is a series of issues that have gone out of control, and it's just an accumulation of several of those things. That's what happened.
Yeah, but
and in addition to all of that, you don't listen to anybody. Right. So that the worst one of all is the fact that you don't take advice.
Right. But you should take our advice, and you should watch. All of that to be said, you should watch All In this weekend because it will be
awesome.
It'll be a big show.
John, I can't wait for the show. and here's the thing, man, is that I and you, not Andretti, because Andretti's a real one, but you and I, John, we watched Great Balls of Fire 2018. Yeah, you know what I mean? I did a whole bunch of hate watching, brother, and it is these criticisms aimed at AEW is only because I love pro wrestling and I don't want you to suck. Like, I want you to be really good, and you were really good. All In 2021 will literally go down. All In 2021 might be the best wrestling show I've ever seen. And I mean that. It might be the best wrestling show I've ever seen. And I'm not saying that every show needs to equal that, but it's a shame that was the peak. I was hoping that was going to be the thing that really, oh my gosh, here we are, true competition. And it wasn't. It was the crescendo, and then the waves started to crash. It sucks. That's what sucks about that.
Look, it's going to be fun, and we're going to have a good time watching that. But let's we should.
I do want to say though, that Danielson breaking his arm sucks because the co-main event for this show was supposed to be Omega and Danielson. And the only match that probably could have been better than Omega and Ospreay 1 or 2 could have been Omega and Danielson in front of 8,000 people with 35 minutes.
Yeah.
And so that sucks. And that's not their fault. That sucks. That does suck.
One thing I will say about AEW that's ruined a lot of their shows is that they have way too many injuries, and I don't know why that is. But they
do dumb shit on free weekly TV. That's why.
There's too many injuries that have ruined too many other shows. That actually has not happened to WWE in a while. So knock on wood for everybody else. But we don't want to see people hurt. We want to see everyone healthy. But I don't know. Watch All Out. Buy All In.
Really quick before we wrap this up, the Uncle Dave theory with this is that when guys would go to Japan in the early 90s, so when you'd have your Terry Gordons and those kinds of guys that would go to Japan, what happened was
40.
Jeez, Gordon. Yeah, Terry Gordy. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Your Terry Gordy's. Your Scott Hall was trying to go over there. Hogan did a couple of runs. So those types that would go over to Japan for those little money-making runs is that when you were doing Dr. Death, Steve Williams was another big one that would go to Japan and make money. The thing was that they would have these like 6 weeks on and then 3 weeks off kind of like deals. And so when they got to the end of that 6 weeks, they kill each other because they'd be like, I got 3 weeks off. You know what I mean? So we can go balls out of here. We can have this game changer match. And the problem is with the AEW schedule, even though it's only once per week or twice per month or whatever, that mentality sort of sneaks in there. And you're taking bumps that you would never take on weekly TV because of that. Do you know what I mean? So because you're not working 4 days a week, like just to make your bills paid or whatever. And that's a really interesting way to think about that, is that even though that schedule is so enticing for a lot of people, that because that schedule is so enticing, you think I have a week off, right? 2 weeks off, right? 3 weeks off, that you're taking bumps you shouldn't have. And that's what ends up with the injuries.
Yeah. Agreed. But yeah, all of that to be said, you should buy All In because it's the biggest show, the biggest crowd in pro wrestling that's been in years since at least WrestleMania 32. That was the 101,000. But this is bigger than the SummerSlam 92 show that we are going to be main eventing with. So we encourage everyone to buy All In and enjoy yourself because it is going to be a spectacle. And we buried them a lot, and we didn't really preview any of the show other than the fact that we love AEW. We want AEW to be better, and they just continuously are proving us that they don't know what the hell they're doing. So speaking of somebody that might know what the hell they were doing in 1992, is SummerSlam 92. And the reason we want to talk about this show also is that this was conveniently the last wrestling show that was in Wembley Stadium. So with that, we're going to let Mongoose take the reins and give us the details on SummerSlam 92.
All right. So thank you, Mr. John. So we have a August 29th, 1992 card coming to us from Wembley Stadium. This one is especially special to me because 1992 was the year that I was actually starting to get on delay pay-per-views, so that if something took place on a Sunday, I got the recorded VHS tape like a week later or whatever. SummerSlam 92 was one of the first shows that I got to see for that. And so really quick before we get into everything, going to the Wrestling Observer newsletter from that year. The actual edition was the September 8th, 1992 edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter. SummerSlam 92 received a 73% thumbs up, a 15.3% thumbs down, and an 11.7% thumbs in the middle. So that was based off of, what do we got here? About 110-ish votes. Best match overwhelmingly was Bret Hart versus the British Bulldog. Second place in that poll was Randy Savage versus the Ultimate Warrior. The worst match overwhelmingly was Nails versus Virgil. Second place was Shawn Michaels versus Rick Martel, which I very greatly disagree with there. Undertaker versus Kamala, which I very greatly disagree with there. And then Crush versus the Repo Man. And then the final one getting votes for worst match was Natural Disasters versus the Beverly Brothers. And I'll tell you what, that's just people being too smarky in 1992 because this show was a lot of fun. So really quick, this 1992 SummerSlam show, 8/29, London, England, Wembley Stadium, had 80,355 fans paid, approximately $2.7 million in 1992 money. That's got to be a lot, right? That's got to be a lot. This would be the second largest crowd to attend a pro wrestling event, only trailing Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant in the Pontiac Silverdome in 1987. The gate figure would be around 7th place all-time, trailing Hulk Hogan in the Ultimate Warrior match in Toronto and 5 Tokyo Dome shows. So, John, what you got, brother?
Yeah, that would be about it would be over $4 million in today's money is what the purchasing or what the ticket price.
Okay. So that's big time money, man.
Big time money in 1992. Yeah. So this show was, this show's an absolute spectacle. One thing to lead off before we get into, the show is that this SummerSlam was actually supposed to take place in Landover, Maryland. And when they realized that, this is also business is way down in 1992. So that is also a thing to keep in mind that this is not peak WWE.
Well, this is the first post Hulk Hogan SummerSlam. Right. Hulk had left in 92 after the Sid Justice match. And that Sid Justice WrestleMania match was the build towards Hulk's last match. So that's a really big thing with this.
Yeah, they did a UK tour, and on that tour is when they realized that Vince decided we're going to take SummerSlam and we're going to bring it to Wembley. And that wasn't actually Vince's idea. That was brought to him by the two people in the office that were booking buildings, and they brought it to Vince, and they convinced Vince that it was a good idea. So that's how they got to Wembley. And that's absolutely insane to think about, that this is the first biggest, this is the only SummerSlam that's been not on American soil, the first and last one, and they haven't done it since. And it's really crazy that, AEW kind of beat WWE back to Wembley, which is an insane thing to think about. But leading into this show, first off, we start off hot with a great tag match. Dave gave this match 2 1/4 stars. This is LOD versus Money Inc.
How about the fact that Ico Pro sponsored this show?
Yes, this is right.
Dude,
yeah.
Every time they showed a body, Crush, he's a beat. He thinks his Ico Pro. I popped. Before we get into the beginning of the first match, can we talk about the people that they interviewed to start the show, and especially the person and especially the person that says that British Bulldog's going to win whether he wants to or not.
I've got it written down on top.
Dude, whether he wants to or not. What if he doesn't want to?
Yeah, that's actually really funny that you mentioned that, because
what a line, whether he wants to or not. British Bulldog's going to win whether he wants to or not. Brother must have known it was a work from the get-go.
Yes, that we'll talk about the British Bulldog at the end, but
yeah,
Yeah, that person was actually ID'd on socials years later. Came out that was them. Really insane that line is absolutely incredible. I actually love that that's how they started the show, with meeting all of those people and giving their takes like out ahead of time.
It was a great start to the show. And for the people that don't know, it was a taped show. Yes. The broadcast at the US was a taped version. If you didn't know, they actually cut a Tatanka versus Berserker match for pay-per-view, which I wish that I could cut Vince's head off for that, or at least punch him in the stomach. What are you doing? I want to see that match more than I wanted to see Bret versus Davey Boy.
You have to buy a certain UK VHS version to get the full SummerSlam card, because they removed, I believe, 2 matches, and that was one of them.
Well, Tatanka Berserker is what I wanted.
What got removed?
Huh?
Tatanka versus Berserker.
There was 2 more matches on that card.
Dude, the Tatanka versus the Berserker was the match before Bret versus Davey Boy.
See,
and the fact that I don't have that is infuriating. It's infuriating. I hate it.
And they also cut that Papa Shango match. But yeah, so the first match, if you're going to watch this on Peacock, that's the only version you can kind of get now, unless you want to dig deep into the archives and get that original VHS version, was LOD versus Money Inc. And there's some notes that I have here on Hawk, because it's very noticeable that dude didn't give a rat's ass about this match. He sucked. And so here we go. Hawk, he was anticipating his 3rd failed drug test. He also hated the Rocco gimmick, in the fact that Rocco was more over than the team itself.
Yeah, well, be better than a puppet.
Put the belt on Rocco then.
Yeah.
He was hopped up on pills during the match, and he allegedly almost didn't make it out of the tunnel because they weren't sure he was going to make it down to the ring.
You want some advice for All In? Bring Toru Yano in and put Rocco with him and put him over in it All In.
The fact that guy drove a motorcycle.
Rocco returns to Wembley is what it should be billed as.
The fact that he hopped up on pills and he drove a motorcycle to the ring is insanity.
Well, it's not insanity in 1992, because all these guys have taken enough somas to kill a horse. But the crazy thing here is that I watched Paul Ellering actually throw his voice to a dummy that had a leather jacket on in the middle of a match that had the Road Warriors there against Ted DiBiase and Bray Wyatt's dad, who was also a tax collector, who yelled at the British people for not paying their taxes, which is really funny because, there's a whole, taxation representation thing. He could have made that joke. No, he just complained that they didn't pay their fair share to the royal family.
How great are Jacques Rougeau and Mike Rotunda for making those stupid gimmicks work? Dude.
Yes, it's fantastic. And here's another thing, is that the fact that Vince kept talking about Bobby Heenan, why are you wearing that stupid crown, the entire time? Every time they say it did pop me. It was great.
The first thing I popped at during that match was when Animal, I think, is on the outside, and you can see Hawk in the top of the ring, and Joey Morella just walking over there to check on him. And I'm like, dude, this is not gonna be good.
Yeah. It's really wild that they were. And here's what I loved was that they were checked out. I don't want to say loved. It's a little bit bittersweet, heartbreaking. They're checked out, right? They're done because their contracts are ending. Hawk's going to fail his drug test. They're going to be out. They're going to give the Road Warrior money to the Steiner brothers to start Royal Rumble 93, blah, blah, blah. But dude, they had a British fan that literally had on Russell Athletic shoulder pads with shoot spikes out of them, just taped down with duct tape, just screaming. They were so over, man. And that was what sucked, was that we had the most regular LOD Road Warriors, whatever match you ever want to say. And they were still so over. I wish that they decided this, and maybe that's what like powered Hawk to work through it. I don't know.
Well, I
Was
think
because the people were so crazy. But I wish that they'd have turned it up a little bit, because it's not like DiBiase and Rotunda wouldn't have given him everything.
They did give him everything.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah.
Like, you want to talk about how good of friends Hawk and Animal are? How about the worst friend ever, Animal, just letting Hawk in there, getting killed? Hawk wrestles 80% of that match. Animal's just standing on the outside. Like, you would think he'd be like, I know my buddy's completely fucked up out of his mind right now and is super unhappy, so I'm not going to let him work the majority of this match. Animal just leaves him in the ring to do everything. It was ridiculous.
Well, the funny thing about Hawk is after the show, he didn't go back. So he retroactively had quit the company that night. He didn't go back on the plane with the rest of the roster. He stayed in London and allegedly partied with Hell's Angels of London and just stayed there. And we didn't see LOD again until 1996 on Nitro.
That's what I'd have done.
That's a long party.
Yeah, that's what I'd have done. So it makes sense.
The finish was awful.
No, it was a total poop fart. And
Hawk is in the way. Hawk is in the way. Animal had to grab Rotundo and pin his ass. It was ridiculous.
So bad.
And there's still Paul Ellering throwing his voice on a ventriloquist dummy.
What are we doing?
Dude, John, did you ever see the Superstars where they found Rocco?
No.
It's so good.
You're doing yourself a disservice. I will find this, not tonight, because by the time we get done, it's too late. I will find this. There is this entire WWF Superstar segment where they're going back to their roots, going through a demolished part of Chicago, Illinois, and they find just amongst rubble a ventriloquist dummy. And Rocco is going to be their rallying cry. It's I would say it's the stupidest thing ever until you see Tatanka go to an actual Native American reservation and have his full headdress and head paint on or face paint on and go in front of these actual like poor Indian kids that live on a reservation. But it's bad, man. It's bad.
It was bad. But yeah, then we get a little bit of a Ric Flair backstage segment. These were always good, but the other thing that was crazy of note is that there's no Ric Flair match in Wembley Stadium. I mean,
he's wearing his gear, which drives me out of my freaking mind.
And the robe. It doesn't drive me because he's always ready, man. I actually like that. I actually like that he's ready to rock the whole time. Full regalia. Just what are we doing, Rick? Oh, nothing. I just came to the show and I'm here to party. I love it. I do.
But the next match, which I was so excited when we saw this, it was Nails versus Meat Sauce Virgil.
Yeah, dude. This was everything I ever wanted to see.
I was so excited. Dave gave it a half a star.
It's the main event in the world.
Dude, that's a half a star more than I'd have gave it.
Why was Virgil's nose running so bad in that interview segment?
I literally wanted to talk about this, that I could not. Damn you, HD, for me being able to just see straight snot running out of Virgil's nose. And so I can only attribute that to a high amount of amphetamine. There is nothing else that would cause a human's mouth or a human's nose to just run, other than you're on so many uppers that you can't deal with it right now. And so you can't pee, but you can just drain waste out of your nose. So good for you, Virgil. That was what I took out of it.
So, the last note I had on that match was congrats on the Hasbros.
Yeah, both of them, man. I'll tell you what, dude. They both deserved them. Here's the thing. match was terrible. The gimmicks were so 1992, and they both deserve figures. They did, and I'm glad they got them. And I thought that this was great. It was a total half star. This is not over or undershooting anything. This was a half star match, and I loved it. I loved every second of it.
Yeah. Something other of note here, really quick too, is that this show is where Nails, when he eventually gets his payoff from this show, is whenever he goes to assault Vince, physically assault Vince backstage, and then claim that Vince sexually assaulted him, and that's why he was.
Yeah.
Going to see,
And here's what's great is that Nails then says that Vince made him take steroids, and no one has ever had a baggier prison uniform than Nails.
Yes.
Like Nails could have been built worse than me on 7 months of donuts, and no one would have known because it's a baggy DOC numbers. Get out of town, Nails. Not to say that Vince didn't call his shot, you know what I mean? But he definitely didn't give him no juice.
But yeah, we did Lord Alfred Hayes backstage, who was at Macho Man's locker room, and they did this throughout the show. He eventually goes to Ultimate Warrior's locker to see if he can get some insight on who is if
I think this is the last Lord Alfred Hayes appearance. I think, because I don't remember him after this, and I love Lord Alfred Hayes, man. I think he's great. I do. I think he's great.
You got to get a figure. Somebody's got to make a figure of Lord Alfred Hayes.
Yeah. But the next match, and 1000, this was my favorite. I think this is my favorite match on the show. And Dave gave it a half a star, and I have to 1000% disagree.
That's Dave being pretentious in 1992, because this is not a half star work. I think that this is a half star because of all the rigmarole afterwards. If I'm being, I think he's grading the segment.
Yeah,
because this match was great, and I'm not saying 4-star great, but this was very entertaining, man.
Yes. Shawn Michaels versus Rick Martel, and there is the stip that they cannot hit each other in the face, and they are vying for Sherry. Sherry is, kind of leaning towards going with being enticed by the hot model Rick Martel, or does she want to stay with the boy toy Shawn Michaels? She fake faints multiple times, which I loved. But everything that happened, they give her CPR in the middle of the match, which I absolutely died for. When they gave her CPR, fighting back and forth for who's going to give her CPR was fantastic.
Well, the first thing we need to state is that this is 1992 and not 2022, and so there's not like Instagram model buttholes all over the place. And so Sherry having those like cheeks out, once Bobby Heenan says about like people keep singing Moons Over Miami, I'm dying at all of the butt references that Bobby Heenan's making. He's popping Vince right next to him. These guys worked awesome. The fact that they worked around I can't hit you in the face so well. Shawn Michaels, a really subtle thing, super kicks Martel in the chest. At that point in time, the super kick wasn't really Shawn Michaels' finish. It was actually a super kick getting like a gut wrench kind of suplex. But he doesn't super kick him in the face. He super kicks him in the chest. I thought that those little things like that were awesome. And then once Sherry gets up there and then faints, and the fact that they showed the pre-match thing of Rick Martel looking at Sherry and her eyes get huge and he winks at her, and they put the camera on Sherry and her eyes are huge and she winks at him. Like, dude, who's a better pro than Sherry Martel, man? She's Hall of Fame and like first ballot, man. She's so good at what she does. And her doing that faint gimmick and then looking up and looking at the guys, and then they come, and then Rick Martel coming out with that bucket of water, and him being babyface of the millennium, I'm gonna throw it, and then he just dumps it on her. Dude, that I was dying. I absolutely loved it. To me, that's a 3-star match, and that's a 4-star segment. And I don't care what Dave thought. I thought that was awesome. I thought it was awesome.
I love how many times Sherry bumped on the ramp on the way out. Just
that's it. That's what I mean, dude. She would just flop down, and then Martel came out, and the crowd reaction he got for holding that bucket of water, and then when he just dumped it right on her, it was perfect, brother. It was perfect.
It was. But then we got Natural Disasters. They defeat the Beverly Brothers, and Dave gave this one a 1-star. And
I'm sorry, I had to check an email here. I got one more note from that last match.
Okay.
I put the rat with the Michaels sexiest man in the world sign just got done eating a can of baked beans for breakfast. That's what I wrote.
Yeah, dude, it was that I loved that entire segment, man. I did. I loved it.
I loved it. Loved every second of it.
That was my favorite of the whole show. It was so good.
So this Natural Disasters match, here's what I have to say. First off, I might have brought this up in the pod before, but I need to bring it up now. One of the more traumatic wrestling childhood experiences in my life was me watching WWF Superstars on a Saturday morning in my living room as an 8-year-old, and seeing Money Inc. put the there was the sleeper from Erwin R. Scheister, and then the $1 Million Dream from Ted DiBiase. They kept tagging off to each other and to put out Typhoon, and they won those belts off of the Natural Disasters. And like, to see this show, when I saw like, oh my gosh, I see these seeds being sown, it was really traumatic for me because the Natural Disasters are so good. And brother, as over as I thought the LOD was with this crowd, the hot tag for Earthquake, dude, this place went insane. There were 80,000 Earthquake fans. I was gobsmacked at how insane they went for the Earthquake hot tag. And then when the Natural Disasters won that match, dude, they were more over than the LOD. As crazy as it say, it's true.
I don't know why people don't like the Natural Disasters more, because I think they're excellent.
They were awesome, man.
They were absolutely awesome. But yeah, we had this bushwhacker thing backstage. I know that we saw the bushwhacker Luke a couple weeks ago down at Hollywood.
We saw a lot of him that night.
Saw a lot of him. Saw his bare ass cheeks hanging out. But
how about those hats that they're wearing, dude, with the bite mark, dude? We got to get those hats, man.
I started fast. When it happened, I was like, I have no idea what I'm watching. I'm done. I'm skipping forward.
That's your problem. I watched the whole thing. We think we know where we're going there, BG. But it was awesome. Excellent. Talking in a New Zealand accent, it was wonderful.
It was excellent.
There was no reason to have him on the show, and that's why I loved it.
The next match was Crush defeating Repo Man. And what Dave gave a quarter star. You
want to talk about something I wasn't ready for, okay? I remember 30xxx-year-old me remembers Kamala Taker, Nails and Virgil, Money Inc. and LOD. Like, I knew those things were coming. I was not ready for Crush versus the Repo Man.
And there's no mention of Demolition. No mention. This was the real mega powers explode. Crush.
Yeah. These guys are literally former tag team champions, and it's just hashtag thanks for the memories.
They didn't even give us a little nugget by saying these guys used to be best friends.
Yeah, they gave you literally nothing.
And that goes into the Macho and Warrior thing. How hard would it have been when Macho goes to the top rope and they're saying this could be it, to say like, don't forget the Warrior kicked out of 6 elbow drops on WrestleMania a year ago. Like 1991, Macho gives the Warrior 6 or 7 flipping elbow drops, and the Warrior kicks. Not a mention, man. That's what it's like. You're erasing your own history. What are you doing? It was strange. But yeah, so we had Axe, or excuse me, Smash versus Crush here. One of them now is Canadian. One of them now is Hawaiian, and the other one is a car stealer.
Cat burglar.
Cool. Yeah, cat burglar.
How awesome is Repo Man stalking around the ring and being like he's a Batman villain from the '60s? Awesome.
That is actually really great. That was something, man. That's all I have to say is that was something. A quarter star is fair. And that doesn't mean I didn't love it, but a quarter star is fair.
Yeah, it was quick.
I think it was better than that. I think it was better than a quarter star.
You think it was a half star?
I'd probably give it a 3.
What?
I watched every second of that match because I love those guys. I love Crush and I love Darso. So I watch everything with them.
Yeah. Well, Mongoose had mentioned this Warrior and Macho Man match, and this was one of the co-main events of the show. This is for the WWF title. It is a weird babyface versus babyface that they did. They typically don't do that in WWF at this time. But Dave gave it 4 stars.
Dude, this is a 4-star match. This match is awesome. This finish sucks, but this match is awesome. And I gotta say this. You want to know how good Macho Man is? The 2 best matches of the Warriors' career are both against Macho Man, and it ain't close. The only one close is Hogan versus Warrior, but oh, dude, that Mania 7 and then this match, these matches are great. They are great, and it's because of Macho, dude. Macho's the best. He's the best. Yeah, and that match was this good with a terrible finish.
I tell you what, I was pissed when they got to that finish, and it was a damn count out, and they're like, like Ultimate Warrior wins, count out, but he doesn't retain the title. He doesn't get the title because he can't win. And it was like, what are we doing?
Well, the idea there was that they then went to the Ultimate Maniacs, which were supposed to face Flair and Perfect Flair and Razor Ramon, not Flair and Perfect. Flair and Razor Ramon at Survivor Series. And then Warrior couldn't pass drug tests and held him up for money for the show and all that stuff. And so that was where we got Macho and Perfect versus Flair and Ramon. But like it was a really cheap way out. But dude, both Macho and Warrior did so good at selling, like, and I mean like 15 minutes in, like, I can't stand up anymore.
Yeah.
And it was comical pro wrestling selling, but it was still like, I was invested to be like, oh, these guys are so gassed. Do you know what I mean? Like, especially 8-year-old me is just like, oh my gosh, can one of you stand up? Whoever stands up wins, you know? And then the way that they did that subtle, perfect pull the boot of Macho. Oh my gosh, he's on Warrior's side. And then they jump in, they beat down Warrior. Oh my gosh, he's on Savage's side. I did really think that was great. It's just the finish was terrible.
All-time great match, though.
What's that?
All-time great gear match. Macho's gear and
this Warrior gear is insane. It's insanely good.
I don't understand why he chose that. The human meat gear, but
it's because the heart of whatever is the blood of the Warrior. Because where on his meat suit, where the heart was, is a Warrior symbol.
He didn't want to put the paint on, I'm assuming. He wanted to get lazy.
It's because he was off the gear. Yeah. And so we had 2 guys that just went off the gear.
Yeah.
Macho even though both of these people are built the way that I wish that I could be for a day, they both felt the need to cover their bodies. So Warrior is off the gear. That's why he's wearing singlets at this time. Macho off the gear. That's why he's wearing his shirts. I need to say this, that Dave said the Warrior shrunk like crazy. He looked about 225, very much like a taller Brian Pillman, but without the wrestling ability. Considering he looked like this when he came back, then suddenly got noticeably bigger, then shrunk a major amount in just a few weeks, you can't convince me of anything other than he was given special permission to use chemical aids up until a few weeks ago because he looked exactly like every big bodybuilder a few weeks before getting off the juice. Savage was great here carrying the action. So
Big rap on that match.
There was a reason that Warrior was gone for a while and then ran in very late to the Papa Shango thing at WrestleMania 8, and now here he is. And now not only is he back, but he's wearing his singlets, and But I like that looked like Brian Pillman without the wrestling ability. So good for you, fine, Brian.
Yeah, and then we get this next match, which is Undertaker and Kamala. Dave gave it a -1 star.
Dude, when I heard Taker's music, I got up and went in the kitchen and got something to eat. I didn't see any of it.
Oh, it's
-1. Dave gave it -1. I gave it +19 for overall 18 stars. I love this, dude. I was so in on Taker versus Kamala, so I don't care. I know that this gets paid off at Survivor Series. I love it. I love it. Love it.
The entrance that Undertaker made is very memorable. And you know what? Put the damn belt on Kamala for that sell job.
Kamala's so great, man. The way that he sells being spooked. Oh, dude. I just love it. I
probably should have watched it, but I just didn't watch it.
Go back. It's only like 4 minutes long, so it won't take much of your time. Kamala's the greatest, man. And they're going to do the payoff where Taker spends 4 months, playing standing boards, building the casket for Kamala. But I loved it. I did. And so the spoiler alert for all the listeners, I didn't watch the main event. So I watched everything but the main event, so I'll let you guys talk about it. I think it was pretty good.
Yeah, this is Bulldog, British Bulldog versus Bret Hart for the Intercontinental Championship. This was the big match, Bulldog's hometown, the big main event, and another double babyface match. But Dave gave this 4.5 stars. The notable notes here about Bulldog is that he was legitimately hitting the crack pipe, according to Bret Hart in his book. So if you read the Bret Hart book, he talks about this at length, where he could not get a hold of Bulldog to put together this match, and he literally found him at the airport. He had been on a crack bender with Anvil, and then when they got into the match,
who hasn't been? We've all been there.
I was just gonna say, yep. We're 3 for 3 on this show.
Right after Bret does that headlock takeover, that's where Bulldog looks up and says, "I'm fucked," and then Bret has to call the whole damn thing in the match because Bulldog forgot everything, and Bret had to take over.
Well, I put down number one that Diana Hart is so hot. Number one, and I give Davey, David Smith or whatever, Davey Hart Smith, whatever you want to call him at this point. I give him a lot of shit, but boy, his mom is hot as hell, dude. So you got that going for you, Davey. You got that going for you. But don't put Diana on the mic ever again.
No.
We don't need to hear her talk. But I actually think this is Bret Hart's best performance, and I say that because of the story of him calling everything on the fly and leading him through that entire match. I think this is the best performance Bret Hart's ever had.
Yeah, this is the peak of Bret Hart. And the one thing that I do want to talk about or mention is that Bret Hart started a sharpshooter while they were both laying on their backs and feet facing each other. Bret Hart started a sharpshooter from that position where he locked it in stood up and then rolled over. That was like that. When I saw that, I was like, that's insanity. Like,
I mean, this is one of my favorite matches ever, and I think some of that has to do with the fact that I know the backstory now, years later, and going back and kind of knowing that and watching the match. This is probably my favorite Hart match, and it's definitely one of my favorite matches of all time.
yeah, the lore behind it really adds to it. And if you do read that Bret Hart book, I mean, it's 19,000 pages long. It'll take you forever to read. It took me 5 vacations to finish it. But I love it. This match is probably the best Intercontinental Championship match that they have ever done. Who knows what Gunther might do with Chad Gable coming up here, because that Gable match they did last night was awesome, and I know they're going to do more. But this match is fantastic. 4.5 stars is perfectly placed. Davey wins in his hometown.
4.5 1992 stars
Big
is
deal.
a big deal. That's a big deal, man. It really is. Like 4.5 1992, like it's almost an adjust for inflation kind of deal. Because like if that's today, just because of the work rate and everything, the way that things have gone, like a 4.5 star 1992 match that's a 5-star match plus today, and that should be noted as well.
Yeah, Mongoose, I know you've seen this match 100 times. But like, did you have? And I know you didn't watch it, this time around. But did you have any thoughts on it?
No, I've seen this match. If I was gonna guess, I'd say I've probably seen this match a half dozen times before. The only thing about it it's not irritating is the wrong word, but because AEW is going to Wembley, they keep redoing this finish, which like the first couple of times I saw it was like endearing, and now it's, I don't know, like I get what you're doing. The finish is great, and the reason the finish is great is because, and I actually said this to Mrs. Mongoose whenever I watched an AEW person do the show, this move on their show, is that finish, as underwhelming as it might be, is one of the best wrestling finishes there is. Because if I put my knees on your shoulders and grabbed your legs, you're not going to get up. So that's a legit pinning combination. Like out of all the things, if I did a swinging net breaker, or if I did a leg drop or whatever, that's not this. The reason that this finish is so good is that it's a legitimate pinning combination that ends a epic 20-ish plus minute match. And so, yes, man, it is a classic. It is something that everybody should watch if they have not. And if you've seen it once, you should see it again. And the only thing I'm going to say is that it's not the best IC match ever, only because there are 2 ladder matches that both involve Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon that I can't put this above. But it's close. It's close.
Yeah. I to put a bow on that match is that it's fantastic. Everyone should watch this. And this is what makes it really sweet for us, is that we've watched 2 WCW shows that have been the shits, and they were terrible. And we went and watched a WWF show from 6 years prior that didn't have the star power. Actually, you know what? It had better star power than that show, and those shows 98 did, but it was significantly better. So significantly better.
This is an iconic show too. It really is. I mean, this and SummerSlam 98 and SummerSlam, or what's the one with the Rock and Triple H? Is that SummerSlam 98? With Austin and the Undertaker. Yeah, so this SummerSlam 98 and SummerSlam 2002, I think, are the ones. And then until then, you need to jump to Brock squashing John Cena. I think that's the next like iconic SummerSlam you get.
Hey, refresh my memory. Where was Hogan during this show?
He's out. He's gone.
What do you mean he's gone?
So he was going to be done, because this is where the S was going to hit the fan with the steroid trial.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
And the writing was on the wall at WrestleMania 8. And that's why his retirement match was going to be against Sid Vicious. And so that's why, like, all that stuff alluding to him being done was he was getting older and Vince wanted him to be done. But that was looming. And then they brought him back for the 93 run, and then he was out. But while that was going on, that was why he also started to shrink. So yes, that's steroid trial stuff is starting to ramp up here too.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. But with that said, we encourage everybody to watch even though we buried the company. We're not burying the show. We want everyone to watch All In this weekend. It'll be on Sunday, and be sure to rate, review, and subscribe. We're taking comments on reading everything on YouTube, since we did get comments on YouTube this week, so we gave you the All In. We didn't do like a great preview, so we're sorry about that, but there's a lot more important stuff we wanted to cover. But yeah, so make sure you check that out. Make sure you check out the figure reviews that we're doing on the YouTube. Be sure to check out Hot Shots. And yeah, just make sure you download, rate, review, subscribe, hit the bell notification on YouTube so you catch everything that we're doing here on the Podski. And yeah, so we thank you, boys, and we will see you next time on the Podski.